But what is the secret to a lasting love? Everyone asks themselves this question, but honestly, I've never seen any truly useful or concrete answers. Anyway, I'm here to tell you about the 222 rule that's going viral on social media. It's a rule revealed on Reddit by a man who has been married for over 30 years. And this gentleman came up with this rule to keep the spark and variety alive in the relationship. Let's take a look at it together and then discuss it. If you don't know me, let me introduce myself. I'm Daniela Coin, a professional educator and Jungian coach specializing in men's personal and relational growth. So I help men feel better about themselves and as a result, have more beautiful and healthier relationships with women. Now let's look at couple life. We know that life as a couple is never a perfectly straight, smooth, well-paved highway on flat ground, but rather a kind of obstacle course, a mountain run, where people have to run up and down hills and mountains, jumping over obstacles, a sort of rally like with cars, truly unpredictable. It's not easy. I'd say it's almost impossible to always maintain the status quo, to always keep that kind of relationship where everything is always wonderful, always fun, where things always go well. That's not possible. And that's why there are so many people, scientists, educators, teachers, psychologists, philosophers, and even people who have nothing to do with it, like this guy here, who might just get lucky and go viral, who try to find an answer. That is the answer to keeping the relationship beautiful, fun, fruitful, special, active, full of love and wonderful feelings and emotions. So, what did this gentleman say, whose name, as far as I know, isn't even known? He said, let's make up. He did this for himself, he says, and then shared it with the whole world. Let's make up a new rule, the rule of 222. That's what he called it. What does this rule consist of? It consists of this. 2, the first 2 stands for 2 weeks, meaning he says, every 2 weeks, have an evening together, just the two of you. So no friends, no TV or movies, just spending an evening, maybe having dinner or doing something romantic and special, creating a connection. It could be a walk, it could be whatever you most enjoy doing together. The important thing is to look each other in the eyes. The second 2 refers to 2 months, meaning every 2 months you should spend a weekend away. So change your environment, do different things together, spend a few days out, go somewhere nice, visit a beautiful town or village, even without going overseas. It could be a short trip, maybe a farmhouse stay even close to home, spending 1 or 2 nights away to rekindle the spark, as he says. And the last 2 refers to every 2 years. Every 2 years, take a long vacation together, a holiday of at least a week, so you can take time to disconnect from everything and reconnect deeply with your partner. What do I think about this? Well, I think it's nonsense. But the therapist Laura Berman suggested another rhythm, taking the rule of 2, 2, 2, and said, wait, let's make it double nonsense. So instead of doing 2, 2, 2, which I don't like going on vacation every 2 years, that's so boring. Let's go on vacation more often. Let's have a romantic dinner every 2 weeks. Okay, that's fine. But the weekend getaway should be every 6 months. That's what she said. And instead, let's take the long vacation once a year, okay? That way we'll solve all our problems. Oh, guys, honestly, this stuff sounds like nonsense to me. I mean, you have to tell me how 2 people who maybe have unresolved personal, psychological, or family issues, a traumatized collective unconscious, People who have been conditioned their whole lives, who don't have a good relationship with themselves, who project their own inner issues onto their partner, their own shadow, anima, animus, are supposed to manage. I mean, you have to tell me how these people, just by going on vacation or out to dinner, are supposed to have a beautiful relationship. Honestly, it just seems like nonsense to me. Do you realize that? A relationship, a healthy one, let's say, has nothing to do with these things. These are just the cherries on top of the cake. But first, you obviously have to make the cake, right? And after that, you can put as many cherries on top as you want. You can go out to dinner once a week, once a month. You can go on vacation every week or once a year. Who cares? I mean, once there's balance, once you're doing well, you've worked through your unseen parts, and you've created personal harmony, once you've gone through a deep transformative process, then we can talk about going out to dinner or on vacation to feel good. But what kind of nonsense is it to say that going out to dinner or on vacation is what keeps a long-lasting relationship together? Sure, it's a pleasure. Let's tell it like it is. Relationships work well, really well, only and exclusively when both partners are committed to fully realizing themselves. So, when both people know that they need to go through a transformative journey of individuation, as Jung called it, that is, to know themselves, to be able to listen to themselves on a deep level, to understand who they are, what they truly desire, then they can enter into a relationship and then be coherent individuals who pursue what they truly want and follow through on what they say they want to do. And in this sense, within the relationship, a transformative journey can be created, which, if the two people are lucky, can even lead to a lasting relationship. But it's not necessarily true that a relationship has to be long-lasting in order to be considered successful. This idea that a relationship is only valid if it lasts a long time is complete nonsense. Sorry if I say nonsense a lot, but there are so many concepts I'm expressing that really are nonsense, obviously. So I have to say it. I can't put it any other way. I mean, I could say rubbish instead, but honestly, I don't like using euphemisms that are supposed to mean one thing but actually mean something else. I'm not interested in that. So let's talk about this cognitive bias. Let's call it that instead of nonsense that many people have, where they think a relationship is only good if it lasts a long time. In other words, you're only good at maintaining a relationship if it lasts. But instead, I repeat and stand by it. This idea is stupid. It's nonsense. Because the main point of a relationship isn't how long it lasts. That is, 99% of the long-lasting relationships you see around are relationships where people are in acute codependency, where they depend on each other and can't break free. They're unhappy in those relationships. They're getting frustrated, repressing themselves, living poorly, and even getting sick without realizing it. And they stay in that situation and keep it going because they're afraid to end it and do something else. And maybe they stay together their whole lives. I mean, do you want to spend your whole life with someone and have a long relationship like that? I hope not. A relationship can last just a day or a week and still be far more educational and transformative than a long, stagnant relationship where people stay together only because they feel they have to, only because they're afraid to break up and don't want to be alone. So let's set aside these outdated ideas that a long relationship is necessarily something healthy, good, useful, and a sign that a person is truly fulfilled and that the relationship is going well, okay? And now let's move on to the most important part of this video, which is the key principles in the Jungian perspective that can help relationships. The first concept to keep in mind is the relationship as a mirror. meaning that we should remember that our partner, the person we are with, is not just the person we love. And often, in reality, we don't even truly love them, but that's another matter. The idea is that the person in front of us is, first and foremost, a mirror reflecting aspects of ourselves that we often do not know. So all our shadows and unresolved issues that we have not yet developed and need to develop, that we have not seen in ourselves, we tend to project onto our partner. In this sense, by understanding this step, unless a person is completely resolved, we know that we will inevitably project. And by understanding this, we can work on withdrawing our projections. I have talked about this concept in other videos as well. That is, through the other person, we encounter our shadows, our wounds, our hidden desires, and we have the opportunity, whether the relationship lasts a day or a lifetime, we have the chance to work on ourselves at a deep level by getting to know ourselves, making healthy use, of course, of the relationship. The second thing we need to keep in mind is that all of us, everyone, project, unless we have already worked deeply on ourselves and have perhaps resolved this aspect, all of us project anima or animus onto our partner. Let's start from the assumption, I'll explain this because many people don't know it. Every man carries within himself the feminine archetype that is a part of himself, of his own psyche, which is the feminine, called by Jung the anima with a capital A. And every woman carries within herself a masculine archetype, which Jung calls the animus. And these archetypes influence the way we see the other person. And very often at the beginning of a relationship, they make us fall in love, not with the real person, but with our projection onto that person. Usually, the anima and animus have characteristics similar to our parents, that is, to our reference figures. If I am a man, I will fall in love with my anima, which I will have projected onto a real woman whom I claim to have fallen in love with. And the anima is the feminine archetype that lives in the male unconscious. And this inner image is usually shaped largely, though not entirely, by the man's mother figure, as well as by other significant women he encountered during childhood and adolescence. So when a man meets a woman who resonates with this image, he feels magically drawn to her, but in reality, he is attracted to his own projection. And of course, this also happens the other way around for women. With this understood, let's move on to the third point to keep in mind, the crisis. Because Jung considered crises, those that often or rather always occur in couples, not so much as failures, as most narrow-minded people believe, but as opportunities for growth. So the crisis, instead of being a failure or a sign that something isn't working and that you should break up, is actually not an enemy but a portal. According to Jung, crises are moments when the unconscious breaks into consciousness. So everything that had been repressed, ignored, or idealized suddenly emerges with force. And that is the moment when projections fall away, when they collapse. And so we no longer see the person we fell in love with as our perfect other half, the person we want to spend our whole life with. But we see them for what they are, a human being with a lot of limitations, fears, needs, traumas, and defense mechanisms. And this applies to us as well, meaning that if the other person at some point experiences this collapse of idealization, they see us for who we really are, which is, by the way, what we are all truly deeply afraid of, even if we don't realize it. In fact, most avoidant people who run away from relationships are actually experiencing this very fear of being seen for who they really are. If you're interested in the topic, I've talked about attachment styles and in particular about the avoidant woman, how she behaves and why she leaves you, in this video that I'll link up here and also down below in the description, so you can watch it at the end of this video. So, what is a relationship crisis? It's simply an invitation to individuation, that is, an opportunity to see the other person and to see yourself in a more truthful way. It's definitely a difficult and painful stage, but it's also a necessary one. You should know that during a crisis, what Jung called the shadow often emerges. That is, that part of ourselves we don't want to see and that we regularly project onto our partner. So in arguments or within difficulties, withdrawal, silences, and avoidance, what often hurts us the most is not what the other person does, but what we fear we are, which we see reflected in the other person and which scares or bothers us. For example, often the avoidant person tends to accuse their partner of suffocating them, that is, of being demanding or jealous, when in reality, most likely unconsciously, they are simply struggling with their own fear of intimacy and deep connection with their partner. If a woman, for example, accuses her partner of making her feel unseen, unloved, and unappreciated, she should probably look into her own old wound related to abandonment that is not yet healed and is being projected onto her partner within the relationship. Someone might ask, Daniela, but these projections, how do we deal with them? Can we get rid of them? Can we heal them? Well, certainly some of them we can withdraw, meaning we can work within ourselves to avoid projecting that content outward. But as Jung also said, falling in love, that intense involvement when we really like someone, is always based on projections because it's inevitable and natural for us to project something we haven't yet resolved onto the other person. Especially when these crushes are sudden and crazy, we are projecting. Love, on the other hand, the mature and profound kind, arises after the illusions have fallen away. At that point, when the illusions fall, that's when the real work that the couple needs to do begins. That is, once the crisis has passed, we see the person for who they really are, if we haven't run away before then, and only at that point can we, possibly by working on ourselves, even through psychotherapy, truly get to know each other and choose every day to love the other person as they are. Not for what we want them to be or for the projections we've placed on them, but for who they truly are. In this sense, as I was saying, the crisis can be an initiatory threshold, and those who cross it with awareness and courage can then reach a relationship that is authentic and free from projections and expectations. And so, in this sense, it will also be a relationship free from the desire to change the other person to make them into what we want them to be. So don't look for easy solutions with numbers and calculations because they don't work. There is no way to bypass the deep work if you want to have an authentic relationship with yourself and with the other person. Keep this in mind, because a relationship that never has a crisis, where there are never any difficulties, where everything is always calm, often can mean that in this relationship, neither person is truly showing who they really are. So they're living a superficial relationship or one based on the fear of confrontation. So the absence of crisis can also hide an absence of life, where you're not truly living but just keeping up a fake situation. I talked about this in more detail in this video, which I'll leave up here and also put down below in the description. If by any chance you're interested in exploring all the dynamics related to communication and healthy relationships, I'll also leave a link down below in the description to one of my most popular courses, Classroom Communication. And I'll include a little discount code for you because you're a loyal and brave viewer who made it to the end of the video. I'll leave you the discount code so you can access the course at a super advantageous price. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like, share it with your friends who you think might be interested in this content, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please remember to subscribe to the channel. I'll leave the ball in the center here for you. Up here, I'll leave you 2 videos to explore further.